because it's been emotional. We've had a great time. I've had a great time. We've had some amazing, incredible guests, and we still got 2 more guests to come. So stay tuned. But I hope you're well. It is the 28th of Ramadan, and we are near the finishing line. But there's still lots of opportunity to make lots of dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever it is you want. So please continue to make dua, continue to pray, continue to give your charity, your zakat, and look out and help those who need it most. Right. Today in the hot seat, I have a very, very special guest, someone who I've known for a heck of a long time, almost my whole life practically, has come straight from the Northwest, Blackburn to be precise, to be in the Drivetime chair. He is a legal expert. He's a bit of an atomic man. I think that's the best way to describe him. He's general counsel. He's a judge. He's a chair of the International Nuclear Law Association. He's an international expert on nuclear liability. And he's the vice chair of the Working Party on Nuclear Liability and Transport. I'm talking with Brother Khalil Bukhari. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Khalil.
Wa alaikum Irfhan. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for letting me be here today.
No, really thank you for coming. I mean, I think this is the most commitment a guest has shown to come on the program, traveling almost 200 miles just to be here to talk about nuclear energy.
Oh, my pleasure. And just to say, this is not a bad setup you got here.
You like it?
Yeah, it's not like it's not like in your bedroom for listeners out there. It's not in Irfan's bedroom. This is not some kind of pirate station. This is quite a nice setup. You know, we've got proper air conditioning and also all the rest of it.
That's it. Yeah, we'll take that as a compliment. But listen, thank you so much for joining us today. And today, I want to talk about life in the nuclear industry, working life in the nuclear industry. So as far as I know, I've got international clearance to talk to you today, so that's good. So I'm not going to break any conventions or laws by having you on, so that's great. But no, you're a legal expert, you're a lawyer by trade.
Yes.
And you work for an organization, a government organization called Nuclear Transport Solutions.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about what the body does.
Okay, well, if I step back a bit, the UK's got a whole set of nuclear facilities that started operation back in the 1950s and 60s, and now they're towards the end of their time and they're being cleaned up. And the government body that does that is called the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. So they're decommissioning, cleaning up those facilities, making them safer.
Because nuclear had a bit of a bad rep, didn't it, in the 80s?
Did it?
Well, whenever growing up, I always used to see those big, cooling towers being destroyed or, sites being decommissioned. And I kind of felt like it was a bit of a dirty word, nuclear.
Well, I suppose people don't always understand something. They label it quite negatively. And the industry has had a long history of being safe, being secure, without incident. And a lot of those cooling towers that you see being destroyed are being destroyed because they're at the end of their life and it's being made safer. Those facilities are secure. The land is being made safer. And that's the process that we're going through now in many of these sites around the UK. One of the biggest ones is Sellafield, one of the biggest in Europe, in fact. And the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority is the government agency that has its mission to clean up and clean up all these sites. Now, as part of that group of companies, we are Nuclear Transport Solutions, and we are the transport division, essentially, of the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. And we deal with moving the stuff around, the nuclear material, the waste, the fuel around the UK to and from the different power stations, but also to and from places like Sellafield, and we go abroad. Worldwide, we go to Japan, we go to the US, and so on. And now, as well as transporting stuff, we also provide advice, consultancy on how to move this stuff around, how to keep it safe while it's in transit. We also advise on security aspects, legal aspects. We work with various government agencies around the world, as well as governments, to help ensure that transporting this kind of stuff, the most sensitive stuff, is done in a safe and secure manner and in a compliant manner.
Okay, so I'm getting images of like reactors melting down, and obviously historically there's been some incidents involving nuclear energy, Chernobyl and Fukushima being the most high profile ones, which caused devastation on massive scale. How risky is this stuff when we talk about moving or decommissioning or disposing of?
So if it's not done properly
Yeah.
and in a compliant manner, of course it's dangerous, it's risky. But what we do is to make sure that it's done safe and securely. There's a whole body of law and legislation, not just in the UK, but across Europe, across the world, that is focused on making the operation of plants, the decommissioning of plants, and also the moving of this material safe for the environment, for people. And the work we do when we transport it around is vital to the nuclear industry, because you need a safe, secure method of transporting this stuff around. And we've had, touch wood, we've had a history of about 40 years of transports where we've never had a nuclear release. No incidents in that time. In all of these transports, I think it's something like 5 million kilometres we've travelled without incident. So, and as long as it's handled safely and securely, in accordance with all the legislation that's out there, it can be risky, but we minimise and mitigate that risk by making sure we do it to the highest standards.
Okay, so your role in all of this is basically making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's dotted. Is that right, or is that too simplistic of a way to put it?
Yeah, I'd probably say that's too simplistic. Essentially, I'm responsible and accountable for the legal risk, for managing the legal risk in our operations, and that could be everything.
That's a big responsibility there.
But I don't do it on my own, of course. I've got a fantastic team around me, and I'm going to shout out all of those individuals. We've got Sophie, we've got Mel, we've got Sam, we've got Amanda, we've got Meb, Claire Lee.
They'll be happy.
But in fact, everybody at NTS is a fabulous place to be to work, and we really focus on the highest standards in how to do this. And so, in terms of legal risk management, it's everything from contract reviews to managing disputes. It's ensuring that the latest laws, that when they're developed and they're implemented, we know about them and we're implementing them. We're applying those in the way they should be in terms of our operations, and of course, we help others. In terms of our advice and consultancy role, we help others understand those laws and new changes and so on, so that it, not just us, but everybody else who's involved can work to ensure that the nuclear industry is operated safely and securely.
So I'm really interested to know, Khalil, and I'm sure our listeners are as well, is how did you get into this area? Has it been a long-held ambition of yours, or did you just think, you know what, I fancy a bit of this nuclear lark?
Yeah, it's more the latter. So, I became a lawyer. My intention always was basically the standard: I'll become a lawyer, I'll become a partner in a law firm, make loads of money, or become very successful and all that sort of thing. And it was about being a partner in a law firm. So I did work in private practice originally as a corporate lawyer, and then my last job before this, I was at a company called General Electric GE, in their, funnily enough, in their transport division. And I just got a call one day after about 5 years that I was at GE from a recruitment consultant to say, I got an interesting opportunity for you. Do you want to work in the nuclear industry? And I said, well, I know nothing about the nuclear industry. I don't know nothing about nuclear law. What am I going to do? He said, no, don't worry. They just
They need
go
people.
and see them.
Yeah.
So I did. And really interesting people, really interesting industry at the time. And it was just beginning to become better known, what we call the nuclear renaissance. It was just starting again and becoming more popular or less controversial. Less controversial. And at the time, I had other job offers from, I think, Siemens in engineering, also at GE in healthcare, but nuclear seemed really interesting. And this was a global sort of footprint.
Yeah.
This was an opportunity to sort of get into an industry that was all over the world and international jurisdictions. And that was a real attraction for me. So I said, okay, let's see how it goes. And I said yes, despite the others offering me more money at the time. Seth, if you're listening, remember that. He's my boss. As they say, I've not looked back since.
Okay, so how long have you been in NTS or nuclear?
15 years.
15 years much. So it has been a worthwhile and a very successful decision and a move that you've made.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember at the time when I was trying to decide, and I spoke to my brother Zubair, who said, "Look, why are you going? Go with more money. Go with more money."
Yeah.
And I have a sheikh, I have a spiritual sort of teacher who said to me, I said, "Look, what do you think?" And he said to me, "Look, go with nuclear." I said, "Why?" And he said, "You'll learn and develop more in the nuclear business, and you should focus on development and learning rather than anything else." So that's what I did, and absolutely, it's been completely worthwhile. The opportunities I've been afforded, the development I've been able to get involved in, all the different activities. I'm very grateful. I've been very fortunate, and a lot of the people around me now, at the time and now, have helped me and encouraged me to take advantage of those opportunities, including Seth, my CEO, who allows me to sort of go off and do stuff that's like this, and other areas which help me develop and grow. So it's been a fantastic experience.
Fantastic. Part of today's show is we want to talk about the industry as a whole and trying to attract more talent from our communities into that industry, because it's probably not high on people's list. Like you said, accountancy, law, health, whatever it might be. Nuclear probably doesn't feature on that list, let alone anywhere in that top 10. But just for our listeners, give us a flavor and insight into what the career highlights have been, things that you've done which perhaps you never would have been able to do elsewhere.
Oh, wow.
Be it travel or go and see places or things.
So
meet
many
people.
things. You talked about travel. I've been able to travel all over the world, whether it's in contract negotiations, meeting different types of customers. I've been from Japan to South America, understanding different cultures and how they do business. It's been a fantastic ride in that sense. Nuclear is very close to government in many different countries, and it's really given me an understanding of government policy. So you can also impact government policy and new legislation changes. So one of the roles I have is I support the government department that's responsible for nuclear energy, for nuclear development and nuclear law. I've been able to support them in implementing the changes to some of the new legislation that's come in force. It was this January, I think. So I've been able to get involved with.
So you're right at the heart of making policy, making laws that will affect the whole world.
Yeah, because the UK is also a member of various European bodies. When we talk about nuclear, the Nuclear Energy Agency, of course, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and we feed in as the UK into all these bodies that impact globally. And I've been able to sort of get involved with the IEA, the NEA, as I just mentioned, Nuclear Energy Agency, in terms of policy development, law development, and also teaching in terms of lecturing at universities. So it's given me loads of exposure and just an understanding of more than just a day job. So if I had been in a law firm, I'd be doing contracts and reviewing contracts and looking at a very ground level stuff.
Yeah.
This has been the opportunity to really sort of engage with embassies, government, ministers and government bodies all over the world. So it's really been an exciting time.
Okay, so the next question is, do you know the codes?
No, I don't know the codes.
Right,
they don't give that sort of thing to lawyers.
I'm just teasing you. That's fantastic, because it seems like from this job, you've been able to then branch out into other areas, because I was just reading your list of roles right now. So you're a judge, you're a chairperson, you're an international expert. I mean, that's incredible. It really is for a Muslim man from Blackburn, mashallah, judge, all this kind of stuff. That's where'd you find the time?
Thank you. I've been very fortunate. I think I got a lot of support from my colleagues at work, and I've got a very understanding family. That's very important. My wife Samara is very understanding, and my daughter Amna also very understanding. My family.
I'll have to ask her next time I see her.
All very understanding of the. It takes a lot of time, of course.
Yes.
Long hours, a lot of nights away from home, traveling. To do all of that within one sort of working life, but some of it is relates quite well to the work I do with NTS, and it's almost an extension of that, because it helps. Part of our role is to help increase understanding and awareness around nuclear law and training and so on. And this really those roles have really helped feed into that kind of prerogative, that kind of part of the mission. And it's part of the NDA, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority's mission, to raise awareness around the nuclear industry, nuclear law, nuclear regulations, and so on. So, it's a toughie, but it works, alhamdulillah.
You said, if you were a normal lawyer, inverted commas here, you'd be doing quite, routine work. With what you do with the nuclear energy industry, I don't suppose anything is ever routine in what you look at. Is it very diverse in terms of the cases, the studies that you have to look at, the decisions that you have to make?
So some of it can be quite routine, quite standard stuff that we do on a daily basis, standard terms and conditions for the supply of something, purchase of something. But a lot of what we do is quite bespoke. And actually a lot of the nuclear knowledge or the industry knowledge that we need is not widespread in the law firm. So we have to really sort of develop it in-house. So within the team, we have to bring people in, train them up, to understand the industry, to understand the different regulations and so on, to be able to then understand what they've got to look at. So a lot of the contracts are quite bespoke, but we are standardizing a lot of the contracts. Big shout out to the team for sort of just doing that with the procurement team at the moment. But there are a lot of novel things that happen that a standard lawyer wouldn't have to think about.
Right.
So it's not just law that we have to think about. We have to think about impact on reputation. If something,
and that must be a big thing, because
absolutely,
whatever the outcome of a decision, it can make or break, an organization.
I mean, there are. I won't go into specifics of different types of laws. It's probably for another type of show. But it's a lot of. There's the law, there's the practical application, and the balance of risk versus reward. But there's also the political angle that we have to think about, and how will this look for the UK, for the government, if we do this and not this, and so on. And that plays through a lot of our sort of thinking and decisions. So there's always a political, reputational, health and safety angle. This might be the strictly legal thing to do, but actually we might need to do more than that. There might be the legal minimum required, but there might actually be needed to be more than that to make sure that the public is comfortable with what we're doing around their countries. I mean, one great example is what we call our global initiative that we have, where the routes that we use for the transports that we do, we go quite close to some countries in the Caribbean and other places, and we go out there. We send people out there to talk to them and to those governments, to the people there, to say, look, this is fine, this is safe, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is why hopefully you'll be okay with us going around near your country, around the coast, with this kind of material.
So a lot of winning of the hearts and minds.
Absolutely, a lot of it is about hearts and minds. So we start at contract level and everything, but it goes much wider than that in terms of the work that we do and where we impact. So I think that's the key point. Lawyers that come into here, and I think my colleagues across the industry would agree, it's so much more than just doing a few contracts. There's a whole impact on policy and public perception and stuff that really makes this really interesting and really exciting.
So it's all safe. Like the countries don't have to worry about having three-eyed fish in their waters and stuff like that.
People have really realistic concerns about what does this mean, and a lot of it comes from a lack of understanding of the how these operations work and the security around this and the safety sort of measures that we take, which are incredible. There's some fantastic videos on the internet which will show, if you just put in nuclear package testing, you'll just see what sort of testing these things go through before they ever go near the road or the sea.
So it sounds quite exciting, because I can just imagine myself, right, having a discussion with government officials, whatever, sort of to and froing about reputational management, and one person saying this and the other person saying that. So that sounds really, really interesting. And coming from a health background myself, having dealt with pandemics like swine flu and being the lead for that it gets really interesting. And you are talking about big reputational risk matters, and how do we communicate certain things to certain groups, and so really interesting. If you've got a question for Khalil, why not drop me a text on 077 488 55055. He's in the hot seat today on Drive Time. He is a legal expert with Nuclear Transport Solutions, a government agency that deals with the safe movement and transport of nuclear energy and nuclear material. Let's talk about nuclear industry as a potential career choice. It's that time of year right now where lots of young people are doing exams, whether it's GCSEs, A-levels, or university exams, and a lot of people are still not sure about what they want to do once they finish that path. And I have to admit, and we talked about this earlier on, that nuclear, do they need to do better PR, or why are they not as visible as other industries when it comes to nabbing all the talent that's coming out of universities right now?
Big question. I've got to be careful what I say here. I think there's work being done in the past, and I think we've probably not needed loads of PR around it, because it's always been an industry where people have come into because they've had a specific, either from a locational perspective, the power plant nearby, so they know about the industry, or from university they've had an interest in this area. I think what that's done is it's given us a certain demographic within the nuclear industry. If I talk about the Nuclear Transport Solutions itself, diversity was a question that came in a few years ago, and there's been a huge amount of work in terms of how we change the dial on how we are publicising ourselves, how we are reaching out to the different communities that we do operate in, but also those that we don't operate in. So part of me being here today is just about that reaching out to sort of say, look,
raise the awareness, right?
Yeah, raising the awareness, and why, and it's not just for people who are nuclear. So it's not just for nuclear physicists or nuclear chemists or nuclear engineers. What I really wanted to emphasise is actually there's a role for so many different areas of expertise in the nuclear industry. So I'm going to miss somebody out, but I'll go for it anyway. Accountants, lawyers, of course, HR people, you've got comms people, you've got, of course, train drivers, you've got seafarers, you've got crew, people who want to go on to work on a ship, work on the trains. You've got fitters in the workshops. You've got people in admin. You've got
people in creative, like marketing or social media.
Social media, the comms team who are listening. I know Claire and Andrew are both listening today. Comms people, you've got marketing people, you've got commercial people, you've got health and safety. I'm just thinking about looking around the exec table in my head, and who am I missing out? You've got company secretarial, you've got governance people, you've got compliance people, you've got ethics people. There's a whole range of...
So there's a role for everyone, really.
IT, cybersecurity, that's a big one at the moment. Finance and risk professionals, there's loads. There's a whole... people just need to go onto the different websites. Energis, is it ENERGUS?
Yes.
Go onto Energis website. There's a whole list of careers and different types of apprenticeships that you can get onto, that are graduate trainee schemes that you can get into, that are fascinating bits of work all over the shop, and it's all over the country. It's not just in. Some people think it's sometimes only in Cumbria that you can be based, because Sellafield are the biggest facilities in Cumbria. It's all over the UK actually.
Oh, so there is a real drive at the moment to bring in more ethnic minority applicants into the industry.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm guessing things like training and support development, it's all going to be there for these applicants.
Yeah, I mean, the training schemes that we have, both the apprenticeship and the graduate training schemes, in my view, are some of the best there are, because you get these fantastic support. We were just talking about earlier today, weren't we? That the graduate apprenticeships that we do, a couple of those have just sort of graduated, but what we do is bring them in at 18. They pay for their college tuition and day release, and they get a job, and they get real exposure both to the exec and the board and the senior management, in order to really help them develop at a really quick pace. They get opportunities to go abroad in some of our foreign locations. So I know somebody recently had a spell in the Japan office. And
that's quite key, because a lot of ethnic minority applicants would be bilingual or multilingual, for example.
Yeah.
You know, and that must be a huge need for sending, you know, representatives to foreign countries like the Asian subcontinent or whatever it might be, who have these language skills.
Some of our biggest customers are the Japanese, very important customers for us. And you know, not many people speak Japanese that normally come to us as a graduate trainee, but we are, you know, the nuclear industry is growing phenomenally at the moment. There's so much interest in it. The Middle East is, you know, the industry in the Middle East is just exponentially sort of, you know, just exceeding all expectations. Abu Dhabi just brought on their latest reactor online a couple of years ago, but the Saudi Arabia, big focus on nuclear at the moment, and people who have language skills, who have the cultural experience, of
the nuances of understanding, the empathy with that
it's really going to be it's really going to be a helpful asset in the future.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So Amara, my daughter, if you're listening, I know you're not sure what to do. We're going to go on the Energist website at some point and get this sorted out. Just tell me a bit about, before we move on to your work with Inlex, and you can explain that. Sure. What's been your biggest personal highlight in the last 15 years? Like something where you look back and think, wow, you know what? That for me was a killer moment.
Biggest personal highlight? There's been a few.
Because you talk about it with such, you know, enthusiasm, such passion, and someone might think, oh, you know, nuclear energy, what the heck, you know, what? But there must be something that's really kept you interested.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. Honestly, there's so much. To pinpoint it to one specific thing.
Okay, maybe a couple or something that you're involved with that thing. You know what? If I wasn't in this industry, I would not have had the opportunity to do this.
Helping the government on implementing the Nuclear Installations Act, the changes to the Nuclear Installations Act.
The UK government.
UK government. So I'll get a little technical. The Nuclear Installations Act was set up in 1965. It was then amended this year, and that process took about 14 years.
Okay.
So in the time I've been here, I've been working quite well with the UK government, the part that is responsible for this, and helping them understand and implement the changes around the transport aspects of that. Mm-hmm. So I would have done that at a very sort of distant, hands-off place if I'd been in a law firm, but I actually got involved in some quite interesting discussions on the inside, as it were. So I wouldn't have done that. So that was really
that's really impressive, you know, to be working that closely with the government officials. You know, I'm talking probably Secretary of State for Energy or Department or whatever it was.
It used to be called BEIS, but it's now Department. Sorry, I'm gonna get told off for this, but I don't know the new name. But it's a new department, DESNES we call it internally, for energy security, and Department for Energy Security. That's it, and they're the ones that are responsible for implementing the changes. So there was that. There's obviously some of the roles that you see there being appointed to the Inlex group at the IEA, and of course, the role at ENET on the tribunal. That was probably a personal highlight also.
Okay, I'm glad to say we've got some texts coming in for you, Khalil. So first question is, what has been your most difficult thing to overcome, life and work? But before we get to that, I believe family members just texting and saying, interesting to know what Khalil actually does, as all of the family thought you were a bit like Homer Simpson spinning on his chair. That's a bit harsh, but hey, we'll take that one first. Go on.
I don't know what to say. Ask if I'll get you later. Well, yeah, it's good that you're listening in at least, so that's good.
But again, you know, I think that's the point of coming on a radio like this, to actually bust a few myths.
Yeah,
bust a few myths about what people do in this, because people will say, people like my kids will, they won't know what I do until I sit down there. Oh, okay, now we know. But and
I think that's probably come from the fact that you know, in COVID, we've all working from home. That's what Asif has seen me.
Spinning on a chair, pressing buttons.
Yeah, but actually,
but let's go to that question there about the most difficult thing to overcome, life and work. And we got another question coming in. We'll do that one after this one.
What has been my most difficult thing to overcome, life and work? I'm not sure I can.
It's convincing family members you actually do some work.
Well, that's part of clearly, yeah, that's quite part of it. I think it's trying to cram in everything that needs to be done at work, but also then you know, addressing and fulfilling my responsibilities as a son, as a dad, father, as a husband. So that is the challenging bit. And where is the line? Especially in COVID, it was crazy because the lines have all been blurred, haven't they, for all of us. So, you sit up from a 12-hour day, you look around and your family's gone to sleep and you just think,
when did that happen?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's and it's still a challenge that I think many of us, I think my colleagues as well, we grapple with as to when do we stop work and then when we get to fulfill our responsibilities at home. But that's probably the most challenging aspect of what I do.
Okay, so thank you to Haider for that. So another question from Sharfa. My question for Khalil is that I'm a third-year law student and I'm about to graduate. Listening to him talk today, I'm now interested in nuclear law. There you go. What opportunities would be available for me as a law student who is graduating soon in nuclear law?
So what I would say at the moment, we are within the group at the moment thinking about and talking about a nuclear law graduate scheme where we might bring in somebody and some people and then train them along and so on. But I think we're a couple of years away from that at least. So what I would say to Sharaf at the moment, get your article. Well, it's not articles anymore. Get your traineeship sorted, qualify, and start to either focus on some of the law firms that do have nuclear law departments. I won't name any specific ones because I'll forget somebody and they'll get upset. But focus on some of the big law firms that do talk about, they do focus on nuclear law, and then once you've qualified, take a look at the nuclear industry as a whole for opportunities. And in fact, I'll say it now because I know somebody will tell me I should have said this. We actually have a vacancy at the moment for an experienced lawyer, not a nuclear lawyer, but just an experienced lawyer who may be interested in getting into the team. So if you're interested, give me a shout, and who knows what could happen.
Okay, so Sharafaz is actually my niece, so I'll put her in touch.
Oh, right,
with
okay.
So she's at home right now.
Well, give me a call. We can speak afterwards as well. So.
But another text coming in here from Sister Sabia saying, didn't realise nuclear energy was so interesting. There you go. You've done what mission accomplished, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, like you said earlier in the conversation, there's been this sort of historical perception that it's a dirty place, it's a dangerous place, and so on. And if handled badly, of course it's dangerous. But so is petrol and the oil industry. If you don't handle it well, it's dangerous. Oil rigs set on fire and all that. It's all dangerous. You've got to manage it properly. But this is an industry that is, like I say, there's a lot of interest and focus on it at the moment. Good investment is coming in. We've had private equity sort of players are interested. I've just bought one of the big sort of nuclear players in the US. So there is a lot of interest in how we might develop the nuclear industry, and the opportunities are massive at the moment.
Do you think that with the current cost of living situation that we're in right now and energy prices sort of in the state of flux that they are, has this been a positive impact on nuclear because it's brought some attention to it?
Yeah, so I think for people in the industry, there was always an understanding that it's a viable alternative, or not a complete alternative, but a supporting option to fossil fuels. I think that focus, because of the energy prices as they are, this has led to more focus on this form of energy as actually we should focus more on this because it could give us more energy security. You're not as reliant on what's happening abroad, and if you've got the right facilities in place, actually you can have a more secure and a more cost-effective energy supply within the country, and to help deal with issues that we've got right now in terms of energy prices.
Okay,
I know my bill is like ridiculous compared to what it was a couple of years ago.
So we've had something coming. Salma Manzoor, Department for Energy Security and Net Zero.
Thank you, Salma.
Yeah,
I'm going to get crucified for this, but it's DESNES. We call it DESNES.
DESNES. All right. Okay. Brilliant. Fantastic. I have a personal question because I'm a very simple man, as you know, Khalil. What is a nuclear reactor? I have no idea. All I know is that it can be potentially dangerous.
Right. So I'm a lawyer. So I'm not a technical person. So I was probably going to say I would pass on that because the summary is the nuclear reactor is...
Is it just a source of energy?
Well, the nuclear reactor is what you put the fuel into that produces heat that then gives us energy. Any more technical than that, and I'll probably get.
And it's the reactor that needs to be closely controlled and monitored to avoid
temperature and environment.
mishaps.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. Okay. There you go. Question from Noor. I think that's my dad. What kind of judge are you? And what do you do as a judge?
Thank you, Uncle, for that. I'll probably sort of let me just put it into context.
Go on.
So, if there, God forbid, is a nuclear incident, a non-military related nuclear incident, a release of nuclear radiation within basically within Europe, we have a nuclear liability framework, is what we call it, that helps us decide who is going to be responsible for that.
Accountability.
Who's accountable and so on. Now, if there are disagreement, and it usually will come up to government if it becomes a significant issue, if there are disagreements on who is responsible, and we need to sort of clarify some aspects of law and so on, then an agency called the Nuclear Energy Agency in Paris, which is a multi-government agency, is responsible for putting together a tribunal of judges, a panel of judges, who would then sort of get together and decide, well, actually, it should be over there, and this is, they would decide on the interpretations of the laws and so on, and decide basically who takes the can, as it were. So that's a panel of 7 judges that are appointed for a term of 5 years, every 5 years, and each of those judges is nominated by one of the member states of this European sort of collective. So every 5 years, a different states get a turn, and the UK had its turn a few years ago, and I was fortunate to be nominated and put forward as a UK nominee on the panel.
On that nomination, you're the first judge to be from a minority ethnic background. Is that right?
In its 60-year history, yeah.
The first one?
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations, Masha. That is an incredible achievement. It really is. And this is why we have people like you on Drive Time, because we want to celebrate and highlight the success that our people are doing. So incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been very fortunate. And like I said, I have this principle that you just exist on gratitude. So you should be grateful for everything, whenever it comes. So I'm very grateful.
Okay, brilliant. We've got a few minutes left of today's program. I'm in conversation with Khalil Bukhari, judge and international expert on nuclear energy and law. We're talking about careers and potential careers for young people from our communities and beyond who are looking to do something interesting and exciting with their life. We've had some great questions. If you have got another question for Khalil, drop me a text on 077 488 55055. If you want to ring in and you're not feeling shy, then give me a call on 0116 4822086. So it seems like at the moment, as an industry, it's like you said, there's a renaissance going on. There's an interest there, and it could be, a very appealing place to go and work and develop a career.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I've had a conversation with a couple of colleagues around my age who said we only wish we were 20 years younger to take advantage of all the opportunities that are coming. And the nuclear industry is one where it's a very international industry. So if you're interested in travel, it's got it. This industry and the roles in the industry have really got it all in terms of what a young person is interested in. Impact, learning, development, progression, flexibility in going in different ways. We've got very different organisations. So within the NDA family, we've got a transport organisation that we have. We've got Sellafield that operates a nuclear facility. We've got Magnox who does the same. We've got nuclear waste, which is dealing with the challenges of how to long-term deal with waste. Where do we put it? How do we sort of treat it? Mm-hmm. So, and that requires people like surveyors and property people are involved in that sort of thing. So it's a really exciting time. And like I said, development in the Middle East. A lot of governments are interested in how they, for their own energy security, how can they flex nuclear? So there's a lot of talk in Asia, South America, Middle East around nuclear. So I think it's a great time to be in nuclear, I think.
Let's do it. So young people, if you're listening and you're not quite sure what to do post-exams or post-graduation, we had a text coming saying that they're definitely now looking into it. Check out the Energist website, right?
Yeah. And, get in touch with me, please. I'm on LinkedIn. Get in touch with me personally. I'd be very happy to sort of almost steer people into, to wherever they might feel they'd be interested in. So very happy to do that. No problem.
Great stuff. Because honestly, I have to admit, I didn't think there was that much of a requirement for such a diverse portfolio of roles and functions and disciplines. So talked about business, marketing, admin, legal, finance, all that kind of stuff, governance. Again, very interesting field. So what do you do? Another question coming in, not sure that's relevant to you. Maybe it's a bit tongue in cheek, but what to do what to do in an imminent nuclear strike? Obviously, run for cover. Come on, you don't have to wait for someone to tell you.
I don't know. Pray.
That's it. Yeah, just tie up your affairs. There you go.
So, I don't know. I'm not in the military side. I'm in civil, so on the civil nuclear side. So it's not really my area.
Going back to your own career, Khalil. All right, here we go. Message from Rosina. Lovely listening to both of you. Well done. It was a really interesting show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back to your own career now. You've reached this pinnacle of becoming a judge. What do you have any more ambitions that you want to personally fulfill? Or are you just taking it as it comes?
Yeah, I tend not to plan too far ahead, I think. Some of the roles that I've been really fortunate to have are, they keep me very busy. So the INLEX one, I think we haven't mentioned that. That's the... Yeah,
quickly touch on that in a few minutes.
INLEX is a group is the international expert group on nuclear liability. It's set up by the IEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is based in Vienna. And basically they bring together... They appoint experts around nuclear law and nuclear liability. That's lawyers as well as insurance people and operations people. There's about 20 of us. And basically what we do is we talk about the nuclear law issues of the day, liability issues, and we sort of talk about and advise IEA, the governments and so on, different governments who are interested in nuclear as to how to sign up to the right laws, right regulation, how to enforce and how to improve and strengthen the current framework around nuclear liability. So I was quite happy with that. Really fortunate to do that. And there's work with the Nuclear Energy Agency in Paris, and in terms of lectures that they asked me to do on nuclear law in the University of Montpellier. So
very nice.
It's really, and I keep telling my team that you should be doing more of this. Some of them are shy, some of them are not so shy, but Meb in the team is going to Vietnam next week.
There you go.
Yeah, to work with parties from the to sort of help raise awareness about floating nuclear power plants and the legislation around that. So it's an exciting place to be.
Okay, brilliant. So shout out Meb and hang tight all the Vietnamese.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I want to give you 20 seconds, Khalil, for your last message to our listeners.
I'd probably focus on the youngsters you're talking about, who are...
Give it serious consideration,
Give it serious consideration in terms of career options and so on. But not just the youngsters, but even if you're thinking mid-career, you're thinking about a changing career, there is many opportunities in nuclear. I've got a friend of mine, Nadeem, up in Blackburn, not my brother-in-law, who is a teacher, and he's currently thinking about changing to work in cyber security. And there are training options for him. He's in his mid-40s. And I say to people who are in mid-career, there are options in mid-career also to get into nuclear. It's not just for the young people.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up there, but thank you so much for coming all this way to Leicester to join us. It's been absolutely fascinating, and keep in touch. Inshallah, we'd love to see how things go. But Jazakallah khair to my very special guest, Khalil Bukhari from Nuclear Transport Solutions. Stay tuned for me tomorrow for the final show of Drive Time for this year, where I will be talking to frozen food king and samosa supremo Nadeem Ayub from the Rockcliffe Group, Zuleika Frozen Foods as well. So he's going to be talking about entrepreneurship and life as a successful business person. So make sure you tune in. But until then, have a safe